Good evening, everyone. We are set up in the mobile weather lab now in my hotel room. We've had a very adventurous time heading into Houston. One factor is that we actually flew right over our winter storm. And something I noticed very interestingly, and I posted it on X and a couple other social media, is that there is a lot of convective properties to the precipitation shield, and we could see that flying over it with a lot of cumulus and cumulostratus clouds throughout the Tennessee River Valley and flying into the Mississippi River Valley. So this is going to be a very interesting storm that has a lot of little tricks to it. And one of the things, and the reason why the convective nature really stood out to me, was the increase of latent heat energy. Now, this could lead to two things. It could lead to an enhancement of the warm air transport and the warm tongue that drives up into the region that will lead to sleet, but it also could support a faster transition of the 850 millibar low to the coast. And that would be very interesting for locations like New York City and the northern suburbs, where some of the model guidance right now is trying to suggest sleet at the very end, maybe even some freezing rain at the very end after a long period of snow. Currently, right now, our temperatures are very, very cold. We're looking at temperatures in the single digits to lower teens over the northern interior, mid to upper teens along the coast. The dew points are below zero. It's pretty impressive. Very impressive cold, dry air mass. And currently, right now, more bark than bite. None of this is actually reaching the ground. You can see that with the observations. No sign of any precipitation here. But it is starting to moisten up the atmosphere and allow for some snow showers to start to break out after midnight, especially as you head towards the 3 o'clock hour. So we certainly have plenty of precipitation. Let's refresh this once again. And you could see plenty of snow throughout the region. Our mix line is well to the south down here in the Carolinas. And zoomed in, we're going to be using this radar quite a bit for tomorrow when we do our live coverage and streaming, which, yes, I confirmed we will be able to pull that off. I'm going to be using the correlation coefficient, which is right here, to really pick out the changeover potential. Right now, this is all snow. We'll look for the changeover signal. We'll talk about it. We'll track it, and we'll zoom in on it and take a look and see how this storm evolves. But really, when we take a look at the satellite picture, plenty of moisture, strong lifting starting to show up here, starting to grow steadily, especially towards the mid-Atlantic, back towards the Tennessee River Valley. There is our shortwave that has started to interact with our other polar shortwave. And if we take this and put on the water vapor satellite picture right here, and you could see that evolution of the phase starting to take shape pretty nicely here over the plains driving this. Now, this trough is going to cut off the precipitation pretty quickly by the time we get to late tomorrow night. So that is your quote-unquote dry slot that everyone's is pointing at. That's essentially what that is the 500 millibar trough approaching from the west, clearing everything out. Essentially, this whole storm is one big isotropic lifting mess, with basically warm air trying to drive out the Arctic air that's in place. And it's going to be trying to drive out a 1040 millibar high pressure system that is driving Arctic air southward and supporting a very cold environment. Yes, we are going to warm up tomorrow. Yes, we will see mixing. But this is not going to be a fast process. It's going to be a messy, long process. And with this type of cold air against the type of warm air transport we're going to be dealing with, that is going to lead to some very strong lifting. And what we're going to be focusing on, especially on our observations, is the frontogenesis. And we'll be watching out with the frontogenesis and seeing how that's going to produce snowfall rates easily, ranging anywhere from 1 to 3 inches per hour. So the key to this whole forecast is not the track of the surface load per se. That matters, but not as much as what is going to happen with this 850 millibar low as it reaches up to the Ohio River Valley and then shifts and redevelops off the mid-Atlantic coast. And one thing that really stood out to me, I found very interesting, is now the 18Z European is starting to support a development of an 850 millibar low faster. Now, this is by 10 p.m. Between 4 a.m. tomorrow and 4 p.m. tomorrow, it's going to be snowing. You'll start to see that mixed line start to develop by around 1 p.m. down towards Cape May, working its way northward. But what's different in the 18Z guidance here is there seems to be a little bit more focus on a new low pressure system trying to close off. It doesn't have to be established. The process just has to begin. And the reason why that is important is when we take a look at our winds at 850 millibars during this time period, what do we notice? The strongest winds are pushing off the coast, east. So your strongest warm air transport is going to be shifting east. So these are things that definitely catch my eye. You know, when I take a look at this stuff and say, this is a little bit different than what you might have expected. And the reason why that's all important is that the cold air is slower to leave while we have this intense lifting moving through the northern mid-Atlantic. So this is going to be a very, very impressive setup here with very heavy snow. And again, in terms of the HRR guidance, I'm not so much worried about the positioning of the frozen precipitation. I do expect mixing. I do expect warming on the Jersey Shore. I do expect rain. I'd be very, very cautious about this depiction here of just plain rain down in southwestern New Jersey and central New Jersey. This is going to be ice. I would love to be wrong. I would love to bust, but I've seen this before too many times. Arctic air does not leave very easily. And in this situation, the warm air transport at the surface is not incredibly strong. And so I'm concerned about this depiction. Okay. So I rather warn you guys and then bust than try to be perfect and say, well, the model's saying this, so therefore there's no way. So I'm very, very concerned about this period here. We have our sleet line. And again, this is happening at 7 p.m. So by this point, we've had several hours of heavy snow with a high snow ratio that gradually rises throughout the day. But in the meantime, that snow is going to pile up. And eventually we do mix. But even with that, by the time we really get the mixing pushing northward, most of the precipitation comes to an end here, and we're just dealing with a few pesky snow showers here and there heading into Monday morning and Monday afternoon. So I still like this forecast. I'm not changing it. I'm not going to chase the models here. I know what I see. I know what is evolving here with this storm. We can see it very clearly. We could zoom out here and see the whole evolution of this storm. We have a lot of precipitation to go through and a lot of Arctic air to drive out. And that process is going to take some time. It's going to lead to a lot of lifting, and it's going to lead to some very impressive snowfall rates. And so I am not changing anything about this forecast based on what I'm seeing and the observations and the way that this Arctic air mass is situated. So again, in zone 1, we're going snowfall 12 to 20 inches. In mostly snow, some sleet mixed in at times, especially in between banding. This area will likely see pretty much almost all snow. Almost everyone, zone 1, 2, and 3, will see frozen precipitation throughout this entire storm. Zone 4, this is where you see a little bit more rainbow. Temperatures rise just above freezing. But again, even in zone 4, you have to go a long way before you get there. Zone 2, I still like 8 to 16 inches. 8 inches if you see that sleet change over faster. 16 inches if you get that snow. Why the range? Because With that snow continuing, you're talking about snowfall rates of 1 to 2 inches per hour, which would really add up if you add an additional hour or 2 or 3 instead of being sleet, right? So we're going right now with a forecast of the wintry mix by 3. If we push that off till 7, you could see very easily how you start pushing into those 12, 14, 15-inch type snowfall. So that's something that I just wanted to make sure I warn about on this high end. Most locations I think will be on the low end with the idea of the sleet taking over. If it's delayed, well, now you know what to expect. And then the same thing here in zone 3, 6 to 12 inches, same idea. This is where I'm playing up that freezing rain threat given the type of Arctic air we're dealing with and the weak warm air transport we're seeing at the surface. Not so much at the mid levels, but at the surface where I'm noticing we're going to see a lot of northeasterly wind. This isn't going to be an easterly or southeasterly wind to drive out the Arctic air, which I'd feel a little bit more comfortable. This is a northeasterly wind. So there's that factor. And then down here, again, 4 to 8 inches of snow, eventually mixing over with sleet and eventually rain. I would love to, say that this whole region will change over to plain rain and will rise above freezing. But I don't think that is a realistic proposition based on what I'm seeing right here. So I am putting out the potential to bust on that. That way you stay safe. Okay. But overall, I feel pretty good about these numbers, about this forecast, and where we're going. So that's your update for this evening. We'll have additional updates, and I'll set up the live coverage, and we'll get ready to go at 7 Eastern here on YouTube, X, Facebook, Twitch, and of course at nynjpaweather.com. In the meantime, stay safe out there.